The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the first Fast Track webinar, Introduction to Career Acceleration. This webinar serves as your first step with us towards career development and the successful achievement of your career goals. My name is Nav, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. For those of you joining the school in Dubai, I'm sure to meet you here on campus as I lead the team of career advisors on that campus. We're joined today by our facilitator and resident expert, Paula Quinton-Jones. Paula serves as our Director of Career Services on our London campus, where she leads a team of 7 advisors providing career development programs to undergraduate, master's, and executive MBA students. Paula brings with her over 14 years of career development and recruitment expertise spanning across companies such as Deloitte, Standard Chartered Bank, and academic institutions such as the University of London and, of course, Hult International Business School. This evening, Paula will introduce you to the Global Career Services team. You will learn how we work together with Hult's Global Corporate Relations team to bring leading companies to campus for a series of events throughout the year. We will also discuss the value of self-assessment in the career development process and introduce you to Hult International Business School's assessment of choice, the Strong Interest Inventory. Paula will provide directions on your next steps following this webinar, and finally, we will open up the forum for questions. As this may be your first webinar, I would like to draw your attention to the chat feature using the navigation panel seen on this slide. Should you have a question along the way, please use this chat function, and we will try to address as many questions as we can towards the end of the webinar. And with that said, I'd like to turn the webinar over to Paula Quinton-Jones.
Thanks very much, Nav, and welcome to all of you to this, our first Fast Track webinar. It's really exciting to have so many of you able to join us, and I was actually lucky enough to meet some of your colleagues at the London Open House this past weekend, so a huge welcome to you all. As Nav said, Fast Track is your way to kickstart your career thinking and your career development. A year goes by really quickly, and even if you're on the EMBA program, I guarantee 2 years will go by really quickly as well. So the more you can do now, the easier it will be to make the most of the opportunities that are coming your way. Not least of which is that there are some very early recruiting deadlines for graduate and MBA schemes in October and November, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit more later. So let me start by introducing you to your Global Career Services team, as we're probably going to be the most useful asset in your career journey. The team is led by Catherine Boschkoff, whose background includes executive management roles in corporates, consulting, entrepreneurship, and education. And like all the Career Services leadership team, this combination of corporate experience and career coaching means that our advice and offerings are always supportive and aspirational, yet always based in market reality. So in San Francisco, Walid Malouf leads the team, and his pre-Hult experience includes business development, management consulting, and entrepreneurial leadership in the clean tech sector. In Boston, James Morrison's background is program management and diplomatic services for the Irish government. As we move east, Nav has already shared my background, so to return the favour, before joining Hult, Nav led training and development at Walmart in Canada, as well as being a partner in his own business. Last but not least, Peter Hill is the director in Shanghai, and as well as being an expert coach and career thought leader, and certainly if you've connected with him or seen him on LinkedIn, you'll know him as the Career Doctor. He also runs his own consultancy and has previously been a senior HR consultant within the consulting field. Our team of careers advisors also have similar coaching and corporate backgrounds, so whomever you work with, you know you're in very safe hands. We also provide a great network and platform for advising on global careers, and we work closely with our colleagues in corporate relations so that between us we can support you wherever your career takes you. Our corporate relations team cover the globe and are the team responsible for building partnerships with organisations around the world to bring in action projects, Hult Prize judges, speakers, and most importantly for you, jobs. They cover all the regions where we have campuses, but of course also where we know we have opportunities. So we cover the whole of Europe, the whole of Asia, and also have specific people working in India. We also have a global search team based in Dubai. These are the guys on the right-hand side of the slide. And they're the ones responsible for matching Holt talent to employer needs through Talent Solutions. You'll hear more about this when you arrive on campus, but Talent Solutions is how we match Holt talent with what the market wants. So employers bring us jobs, and then we use our database and our knowledge of you as our students to match you with the jobs that the companies have. Excuse me. The corporate relations team deliver our global career open house, and this is our flagship careers event. For the year 2014-15, the year that you're joining us, we'll actually be holding two global corporate career open house events, one in October and one in April. The October event will focus on graduate and MBA development programs, whilst the April event will focus on direct hiring. You'll need your CV ready and approved to make the most of this event, so another reason to start early. On this slide is a snapshot of just a handful of the companies who attended on each campus, and I'm sure you can agree that there'll be plenty of organisations on there that you'll be looking to target, so best to get in early. Another key part of your Holt journey is going to be gaining inspiration and insight from industry speakers. This could be anything from a small roundtable with a venture capitalist to a panel of brand managers and marketers from FMCG, to hearing from Paul Polman, the CEO of Unilever, which is what actually happened in London back in January. In Career Services, we work closely with corporate relations to ensure that the speakers who come in match the interests and ambitions of our students. But we do encourage you to remain open-minded and make the most of all the speaker events. So our aim in Career Services is to provide you with a personalised career support, which means that you graduate empowered, marketable and employable. Empowered by discovering your talents and drivers through one-to-one coaching and through assessment. We then help you match this with the market data and trends to identify where you can offer most value. And then we bring all of this together to create your personal roadmap. Marketable is another strong facet of what we do. It's so competitive out there that you need much more than just a great CV. We focus on building your personal brand and market offering through tools such as LinkedIn, and then leveraging that brand to access opportunities, particularly through networking and informational interviewing. And finally, employable. This is where you polish your tactical toolkit. You get a professional CV and resume review. You get intensive coaching on interview techniques and salary negotiations. Your professional career development sessions and workshops are going to have real impact in this area. So how do we know that that formula works? Well, every year we work with hundreds of students, and whilst everyone's journey is slightly different, there are common trends amongst those who achieve their career aims. And Tony Tang is a typical example of this success profile. So Tony completed his MIB on the Holt San Francisco campus, and before starting the program had internships in the finance sector. But in starting early and engaging with his careers team, he refined his career plans and set his sights in a new direction, and that was into Google. Getting his resume into good shape before he arrived meant he was able to capitalize on opportunities as they came up and never missed out. He really elevated his marketability by getting out there and talking to people, so he had an insider view of the market that was both realistic and up to date. And then he built on this insight and constantly rehearsed and perfected his approach to keep it tailored and focused. Tony joined Google as a customer support problem solver shortly after graduation. So how are you going to replicate Tony's success for yourself? There is no magic formula to career success. It's a lot of hard work, a healthy dose of realism, and if I'm honest, a little bit of luck. But the thing that is most important in getting the career you want and the long-term career success you deserve is understanding what makes you tick, what drives and motivates you. Basing your job search around this is what makes you successful, not just in terms of playing to your strengths, but also in terms of having a career that you will find fulfilling and satisfying over the longer term, so it becomes a career choice and not just the first job after Holt. So at Holt, we support you through this process by giving you the opportunity to use the strong interest inventory. Thousands of students take this assessment each year, and thousands of students get jobs each year based on the knowledge and insights they've gained through the assessment. We use this tool to give you an objective way of looking at your preferences and skills and give you a great basis for understanding yourself. Strong interest inventory is one of the most widely used and recognized assessments globally. And you're in good company because not only is it used by some of the world's most prestigious schools, it's also used widely amongst Fortune 500 companies. So you know that the discoveries you make and the information you gather is all relevant in the real world. So once you've completed the assessment online, you'll receive a detailed report. And the report you received is designed so that you can easily understand it yourself with no need for a specific interpretation session, though of course we encourage you to discuss it with your careers advisor. On the first 2 pages, you'll find your highest occupational themes, so in this case, social and artistic. Sorry, excuse me. These give you a bird's eye view of the areas that interest you, so it's not just around the types of roles, but the environment you work in. You're likely to have a combination of themes as your top scorers, but you're also likely to find that there are elements of all 6 themes that make sense to you, which is why on the second page of the report, you receive a description of all of the themes so that you can see how they work together. On the next 2 pages of the report, we delve deeper by looking at your specific interests, and you'll be able to see your top 5. This is much more specific and breaks down those themes into specific skills and activities. You'll also see that by each of your top 5, there are some suggested occupations which relate to that specific interest. And finally, you're presented with a list of other interests that fit and potential occupational areas. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and there may be things on there that you'd never consider, but it's really useful to look at why they've been suggested. When looking at your report, you'll find that the general themes, the occupational themes, will tend to address your motivators and drivers, as well as the work environment suits you best. And your specific interests will help you define your skill set and particular occupations that play to your strengths. Again, none of this is a definitive answer, but it gives you a great starting point and some real food for thought. So, what does this look like in practice? Let me introduce you to Alexander. Alexander was an MBA on the Dubai campus. He worked with Nav and his team and took the strong interest inventory. He came out with his theme as being analytic, and then his key skill sets being around numerical ability, data analysis, verbal ability, the ability to motivate, and finance and attention to detail. So at this point, let's make use of that chat bar, and I'd be really interested to you to enter in what kind of opportunity and what kind of role do you think that Alex pursued after Holt?
Okay, Paula, I'm just going through the chat right now. We see Veronica believes it could have been teaching or consulting.
Oh.
Whitney has put in finance opportunity. Mike believes he may have ended up as a finance advisor. Waleed believes he could have been a finance analyst.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's more finance advisor, trading, consulting, budget management, a lot of financial analysts, project manager.
Great. Well, this, of the 3 webinars, I think we found the smart bunch because you guys have really looked at the skill sets holistically and not just said finance, but financial analytics and looking at strategy teaching. I think it's a really interesting one. So let's look at what Alexander actually did. Oh, let's try. There we go. So Alexander actually went off to be strategy director for an online retailer in Dubai. And whilst he could probably have pursued any of the careers that you guys mentioned, when he looked at everything holistically, this is the one that suited him best. So as a strategy director, Alexander needs to use his skill in working with numbers and data to understand what's happening and translate that into strategies and plans. His verbal abilities give him the fluency to communicate his ideas to stakeholders, and his ability to motivate others as well as his attention to detail make him a really strong department head. So it's not just what he was doing, but the level he was able to do it at. So given that you guys are so good at this, let's try another one. This is Vanessa. Vanessa was an MIB on the San Francisco campus, and again, she worked with the Career Services team on her strong inventory assessment. Her main theme was artistic, and then her specific interests were verbal communication, public speaking, written and mass communication, artistic expression, and people skills. So again, we'd really love you to share your thoughts on chat about what you think Vanessa did after Holt.
Great. We've got a couple of quick responses. HR manager, marketing communications, some more human resources, director of communications, public relations. Gustavo also says HR. Frank, public relations.
Great. Nav, you and I are soon going to be out of jobs because these guys know what they're talking about. So I'm really interested to hear the amount of you that said HR, because again, that wasn't something we immediately thought of when we were looking at this. And coming from an HR background myself, we don't necessarily think we're always the most creative people, but there is a big creative strand there, and certainly the people engagement could have been something that she really liked. I think what Vanessa actually ended up doing was scoring her dream job as a brand executive at Chanel. And I think this is an instance of where she did the job is as important and as related to her strong inventory as what she's actually doing. So Vanessa's artistic theme is all about creating and enjoying, and it means that she'll enjoy expressing ideas and emotions through a variety of media. And she also likes to surround herself with others in a creative environment. And I think that's really key for anyone who's ever worked in the luxury industry. There's an element there about being able to work with incredibly creative people in a business context and translate that vision. So her strength in written and mass communication makes her a great fit for a branding role, which is all about communicating a strong, consistent, and compelling message. But also her personal skills allow her to engage with and understand her customers. Vanessa landed her dream job with Chanel because not only could she highlight all her relevant transferable skills, she could also articulate her motivation for this type of role using the language she gained from a strong inventory. And in any area that's perceived to be glamorous or very popular, it's really important to be able to articulate your motivation so you're not just seen to be doing it for the glamour, but you really know what you're getting yourself into. So when you receive your report, there's some questions that you need to answer, and this is where you start to explore, and it gives you a really great basis on which to base this research. So if you're looking for your first role, it will help you generate ideas. If you're looking for a career change, it will help you identify the things that you want to keep and the things that you want to change. And if you're accelerating in your current role, then this will help you identify your strengths to build on and also give an indication of the kind of leader you might be. I'm sorry. Whether you use Strong or any other tool, there are three things you absolutely need to understand. The first is, what have you learned about yourself? And interesting, are there any surprises in there? If there are, try getting feedback from people who know you really well, both in a personal and a work context, and see whether they agree and whether they've observed that change in you. If everything is as expected, then great, probably means you're quite self-aware, but be honest with yourself. Are you doing enough to build on those strengths? And are you developing some of the weaker areas that might be really important in gaining your next role? The second question is to think about your ideal work environment. And there are so many different places in which you can use your skills. It's worth taking some time to understand what's the best fit for you. So let me give you an example. If you're highly analytical, great with data, really good at maths, you could be an actuary, working in an office with other actuaries, 9 till 5, very quiet, focusing on your own work. Or you could be a quants analyst on a trading floor in a bank, helping the traders understand how to calculate their spreads, how to calculate their prices. So in an actuary's office, it tends to be quite quiet and diligent. For anyone who's ever set foot on a trading floor in a bank, you will know it's anything but quiet. Two totally different environments, but using the same skill set. And finally, what's your ideal occupation or occupations? As I said before, any assessment that you do might throw up things you never thought you could do, or some things that you're immediately put off by. Don't dismiss them out of hand. Try and understand why they may have come up, what elements of them you actually really like, and what it is that turns you off. Because when you're researching your career, it's as important to know what you don't want to do as it is to know what you do want to do. So, you will receive an email with a link so that you can complete the strong interest inventory. And that email will be sent to the email address for which you registered for this webinar. When you receive your link, it's not a timed exercise, so you don't have to rush through it. But also don't overthink your answers. Your gut instinct and the first answer is usually the best way to go, because that will give the truest and most meaningful outcome for you. And then finally, upon completion, you'll receive the feedback report that we looked at a few minutes ago. Please make sure you do read it. As I said before, it's detailed enough that you're able to understand it and begin answering those 3 important questions yourself. But you should also bring it to your first meeting with your careers advisor in September so that you can start building it into your career plan. Sorry for the coughing, everyone. The weather's just changed in London, and that usually means colds for all of us. So I'll try and keep it to a minimum. So once you've got a good idea of your skills and your strengths and the kind of environment that suits you, you want to start matching that up with the market demands. And again, it goes back to this idea of being marketable. And a great resource for you is MyHolt, which you may already be familiar with. It's a very comprehensive but very user-friendly tool with lots of up-to-date information resources that you can access immediately and then anytime you like. Whatever stage you're at, MyHolt is your go-to place for information on perfecting your toolkit as well as global market trends and data. And there are a couple of pages that you'll probably want to check out sooner rather than later. So the first one is the career planning and exploration page under the title of Understand the Global Job Market. Under that, you've got a number of resources which will help you connect with local markets, understand the employers and the approach to work there. And then also in the Holt subscribed resources, these are links to external resources that you have access to through a Holt account. And certainly when looking at the global job market, the first on that list, Going Global, is a really excellent place to start. MyHolt is also where you're going to submit your Holt resume for review as part of Fast Track, which leads us quite nicely on to that topic. So remember how Tony Tang said he wrote his first resume before coming to Holt? Well, now it's your turn to get your own head start on the competition. The reason we have these logos on the slide is because most multinationals now have early schemes and programs for graduate and MBA hires. These are the programs where they will bring in their entry-level and mid-manager level talent, rotate you through different areas of the business and train you up, and then fast-track you into management positions. Some of you will have heard of them already. They're the analyst and associate programs, and they were sort of pioneered by the finance and consulting sectors, but are becoming really popular throughout the whole industry area. As I mentioned earlier, our colleagues in corporate relations are going to be hosting a global event during October to promote these programs, and therefore it's likely if you go for one of these that you'll be making applications in October or November. So once again, an early start is really essential. So the Holt template has been developed jointly by our career services and corporate relations teams to bring together best practice international standards, first-hand knowledge of what has worked for students in the past, and direct feedback from employers. It guarantees that every resume that goes out from Holt is professional and impactful. And whether it's your resume or your classmates that goes out, you know that employers are getting the best possible impression of Holt talent. To start building your Holt resume, you need to go back to My Holt and download the template and the resume writing guide. And it's essential that you read that guide, as it's packed full of advice on how to present your skills and experience to maximum effect. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so a couple of things to bear in mind when preparing your CV. The first one is focus on facts and details, because that's what gives employers a really clear picture of you and your value. Try to avoid the standard resume claims of being dynamic and innovative and hardworking, because to be honest, if you weren't hardworking, you wouldn't tell me that on your CV. But it's also an easy fallback. It doesn't actually give me any detail about you. You can stand out much more by going for detail and showing how you're different from the rest of the market. The Holt template is an achievement-based resume. So rather than listing tasks and responsibilities which show what you were paid to do rather than what you were good at, the achievement-based resume shows what you've done in your role to add genuine value to your organisation. And this is the heart of the resume. And it is challenging to do it well, but that's why we work with you and support you all the way. Every word matters, and these are the hardest ones to write. But it's important that you give it your best effort, because actually the skill of being able to write a good CV extends far beyond producing a great document, but it also helps you articulate your value whenever you meet someone. And as a little side note, by including facts and figures in your achievements, the readers get a real sense of the size and scope of what you've accomplished. So as you can see in this example, by adding in the 90%, the $2 million, the 74% of market share, we've got a much better idea of the size and scope of what he actually achieved. So once you're complete and you're happy that you've really sold your experience, submit your CV. It will then be reviewed by a team of professionals who are rigorously trained in the use of the Holt template and who are also professional CV writers. And they will provide feedback on every submission within 2 weeks. The feedback that you receive will give further insights and advice in how to best sell your achievements through really well-crafted accomplishment statements. But they'll also advise on what words and phrases to use to ensure your resume is SEO optimized. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, SEO optimized means that your CV is full of the words and phrases that employers use when searching through websites and things like LinkedIn to find their requisite talent. So if you're SEO optimized, you'll come up at the top of that search. Of course, they'll also ensure that everything is correctly spelled and formatted so that you can focus on the content. And all of this means that you should have a polished CV ready to go for your all-important first meeting with your careers advisor in September. So once again, to submit your resume, it's back to My Holt, and you'll be going to the same place that you went to download the resume writing guide and the template, but this time you just skip to step 4, click on the blue word here, and upload your CV. So hopefully now you're even more excited about the opportunities ahead and are really clear on what you can do to give yourself a competitive advantage. So just to recap your next steps. Firstly, complete the strong interest inventory, which once again will be emailed to the address that you use to register for these webinars. Download the resume template and guide from My Holt, read it, and then create your achievement-based CV, remembering to keep it factual and accomplishment focused, and then upload it for My Holt so that you can have it submitted to our professional editors. And just to remind you of what you're preparing for, here's a little snapshot of what your year might look like. So in September, you'll be meeting your careers advisor for the first time. And the more thinking you've done in preparation of your CV, the quicker a start you can get in making that planning happen. In October, we'll have our first career open house event, and particularly if you're targeting a career change or an entry-level role into a big multinational, that's a vital event for you. And then in November, you'll probably be making your applications. If you're looking more at the direct hire route, you probably won't be ready to make applications until April, May time. So that's perfect because that ties in with the second career open house. But realistically, the corporate relations team start talking to employers as early as mid-February about that career open house. So again, having your CV in the database at that point means it's getting out in front of employers really early. And then finally, we really ramp up the volume of internships and talent solutions roles in May. So in the few months leading up to graduation. So you need to be absolutely ready to go and perfectly polished by that point. So that's it for this first webinar. But of course, you know that this is just the first in the two-part series. So we'll be seeing you again in a couple of weeks so that you can hear from my colleague Rose Keating and from Nav about the global career market and how you're going to align your career planning with it for maximum success. So no matter where you're planning to work, that's an absolutely essential session for you. And in case any of you haven't yet done so, I'd love to encourage you to join the Fast Track LinkedIn group. This is a great resource to build your global network early on. And what you'll find is you'll meet people from other campuses who may be looking at the same career choices as you. So you could get together, share resources and insights that you've gained along the way. Or you might meet someone who's doing the job that you want to go to do next, or working in the location that you're hoping to move to, and they can be a great source of information for you as well. And obviously the other thing is to ask questions and share information. There is a dedicated team of careers advisors and other professionals who are checking that group, answering questions. And even though you might think it's a silly question, I can guarantee someone else is thinking it as well. So you can become very popular by asking the question that other people were too scared to. So at this point, I want to thank you all very much for your input and for listening, and to hand it over for Q&A.
Great, thank you, Paula. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to type it into the chat, and we can read them out loud for Paula to address. Okay, so there are a few questions, Paula, I can respond to. There will be a recording of this webinar, and it'll be posted to MyHalt, the Fast Track page, within 48 hours. So should you want to go back and refer to it, you're more than welcome to do so. You can also find the resume template link on the Fast Track page as well. Somebody has a question. I've already submitted my CV. Can I resubmit it after I work a little bit more on it? Absolutely. And we would encourage you. I know a lot of students got a head start and they started to submit their resume when they registered for Fast Track. If you learned something new in this webinar, or you didn't have a chance to look at the resume writing guide first, I would encourage you to go back and do that so that your resume that you do submit is all that much more better and ready to go. Yeah? Okay, so there is a question about, can I deviate slightly from the template? And Paula, maybe you want to explain why we have the template and how we use it in our talent solutions process.
Thanks, Deb. The short answer to that is no. And the reason for that is because we are maintaining the Holt brand. There's been a lot of research that's gone into producing a template that is going to work globally, and that also sells you to your best advantage. So if you want to take part in talent solutions or to apply for jobs through Holt, then you absolutely need to follow the Holt template. However, you'll also be following alternative avenues. You'll have external jobs that you want to apply for, other people who will ask you to see your CV. And it's always the accepted best practice that you should tailor your CV or resume for every job that you go to. So if you want to change your CV for external use, that's absolutely fine, and we can work with you on that. It might be that you're applying to a certain market and you need to add a photograph, or you want to prioritize your experience in a different order because you're a career changer. All that is fine, but what we do ask you to do is, for Holt jobs, please apply through the Holt format, because that's building our brand, and we know that the employers that we work with like that format and it speaks to them. And then we can certainly work at tailoring your format for external roles.
Great, thank you. This seems to be a common question of the day, Paula, but the question about length of CV has come up. So what is the standard length they should aim for?
I mean, I know that the standard in the US and Canada and a lot of other places is 1 page, and I think that's fine. I wouldn't be afraid to go to 2 pages, and certainly if you've got more experience, so if you're looking at sort of 5, 6, 7 years of experience, it can be quite difficult to sell that effectively in just 1 page. So going on to 2 is absolutely fine. I now have 15 years experience total, and I can just about get that onto 2 pages. I have to be a bit disciplined, but it's absolutely fine to still have a punchy document that goes to 2 pages. Any more than 2 pages, unless you have an academic CV or a PhD, is actually a bit too long.
Okay, great. And I'm just looking at, we've got another question about the resume. And I would imagine this is coming from a master's student, probably with less than a year of experience. But if I only have internship experience, should I list that on my CV?
Absolutely, you absolutely should. As somebody who used to recruit at volume, people with exactly that sort of background, you know, fresh out of university, 1 or 2 work experiences under their belt, actually the fact that you've gone out and got an internship and shown that motivation is really important. You will also have learned quite a lot in that internship. So often people say, well, I was just doing admin around the office. But think about, you know, did you display initiative? What did they say to you at the end? Did they thank you for things in particular? Because that's a skill set that you've been recognised for. And then also thinking about what practices and processes did you learn? Did you see the sales team interacting with clients? In which case, what did that tell you about customer relationship management? Did you sit in any meetings with your boss and understand how the political environment played out and working with different people's agendas? So there'll always be a lot that you learn from your internships, and you absolutely should put them in there. They're a vital piece of experience.
Great, thank you. This is another common question in the chat room. But at what point should we start applying for jobs?
Okay, there's a phrase you're going to hear quite a lot from your careers team, and that's "it depends." So this is a good one of those examples. It depends question. If you are applying for graduate and MBA development programs, then you'll start applying in October or November. Then after that, for most markets, it's probably not worth making job applications until sort of 3 months before you graduate. The reason I say that is a lot of people get very excited and start applying for jobs in February, and then the company is like, you're great, when can you start? And they say, in 6 months' time. And companies just don't have hiring horizons that are like that. So you might spend a lot of time missing out or getting frustrated because you're applying for jobs that you can't take yet. So usually May, June, July are the optimum times for making applications. But the important thing is that you've done all of your planning and decision making before that point. So all that you have to do then is just start firing out the applications. So October, November, if you're going for a formal recruiting scheme, and then May onwards for direct hire roles.
Great, thank you, Paula. Along the same lines with regards to resumes, does the career team provide support on alternative formats for resumes? So if somebody is going to a creative field, I would imagine this is a master's in international marketing student, and is wondering about electronic resumes, infographic resumes. Do we only support the Halt resume template?
Absolutely not. I mean, obviously we want everybody to be able to represent Holt and to be able to apply for Holt jobs. So we will, if you want to participate in that, you will need to produce it in the HALT template. If you're in marketing, you'll understand the need for strong brand equity and brand consistency. But yes, other than that, we can also absolutely explore additional versions of your CV or resume and different presentations of that you're going to want to use for different audiences. I would just give a word of warning on infographic CVs. I'm actually doing a bit of recruiting with one of our alumni for his startup business, and we received an infographic CV and couldn't understand what the person had been doing. So there's one word of warning for you all: don't go for style over content. But yes, absolutely, we're always looking at those sort of things, and we'll also advise you on your LinkedIn profile as well.
Great. Again, with regards to the CV, the resume, Veronica wants to know, if you're aiming to complete a career transition, how specific do you get about your past experience?
I think that's a really good question, because the temptation is, what you've done before isn't directly what you're going for next, to try and downplay it because it's not immediately relevant. But I'm always saying to people, if you're trying to persuade someone to take a chance on you, which if you're making a career change, you are to a certain extent, they need to understand that you're a good person who can cope with it. And showing that you've got a really successful track record on what you did before is a really good way to do that. So I think there are two main things to focus on if you're a career changer in your CV. The first is to build up a real success profile. So show how good you were at the job you did before, because that will make people more comfortable about taking a chance on you for a change. You want people to think they've succeeded in that area, so they're now making a conscious transition, rather than, well, are they moving because they couldn't do what they were doing before? I think the second thing is then to make you look like you belong, and that's all about speaking the language of the organization or the function or industry that you're going to next. So, for example, if you're transitioning from a technical role, you might be used to calling people customers, but actually if you're moving to a consulting role, they're always clients. If you're going into marketing, you need to be comfortable with the jargon of multi-channel and direct marketing and this kind of thing. So putting that and using that to describe your experience and your skill set will really help you start positioning yourself as someone who belongs in that field. And then the other thing to do is look at things like, again, if you're moving from a technical field to a more commercial, consulting or people-based area, look at the things that you're focusing on. So you might have a lot of focus at the moment on the technical skills that you know, how you get the job done, and less on the people elements, the project management, that sort of thing. So again, it's about slightly refocusing. It's quite a delicate art, and obviously in the careers team, we're very used to working with people on that. But those are the two main things to consider. Really celebrate the success of what you've done before, so you've got a solid basis to build on. But then also start talking the language of where you want to go next to show that you belong there.
Great, thank you, Paula. Another common theme in the chat at the moment is regarding the professional experience section of the resume template. Is that just limited to actual work experience, or can a student list internships that they've done or volunteer work that they've done? What should go under that professional experience section?
Certainly internships would definitely go underneath there. Volunteering experience can fit under there as well, actually, if it's relevant to what you want to do next. And so that's a really great way to showcase another set of skills. So again, it's going to be down to how you describe it, but if it's demonstrating skills and learning that are directly relevant to your role, then absolutely it can go under your professional experience.
Great. Okay. Just give everyone a final moment if you'd like to quickly put your question in. If not, I would encourage you, if something does come up that you need to address with any of the career services advisors, please do so in the LinkedIn group. Alternatively, you can also email fast, F-A-S-T, track, T-R-A-C-K, at halt.edu. Okay, so with that, I'd like to thank Paula for taking the time to share her knowledge on the subject of self-assessment and career development. I'd also like to thank all of the participants who logged in today. We hope to see you at our next webinar on June 24th. Thank you.
Thank you.